Howdy. Before I start talking about that, I need an excuse to play the PS2 again. Back in 2000, EA released Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed for the PC and PS1. This is an unusual game, or should I say, games. Previous games were very similar in both systems, bearing a few differences. Hot Pursuit had more cars in the PC version, while the PS1 version has the NASCAR C2 and the 355 Coupe instead of the Shigera and the 355 Spider, as well as secret tracks unlocked through codes. Meanwhile, High 6 on PC has the tracks from Hot Pursuit 1, while its PS1 version has a similar yet different career mode, both a DB7 out of the box, the long-tail McLaren F1 GTR instead of the standard one, and two more original cars instead of the Enigma. Porsche Unleashed is a whole different story. All they share is Factory Driver, some songs, and most of the roster of Porsche cars, but other than that, they're totally different. The PC version was developed by EA Canada, who did the PS1 ports, and it takes a more simulation approach in its car handling, as well as having a career mode about the brand's history, where you upgrade cars, have custom cars for them, and racing point races mainly in France and Germany. And then you have the PS1 version by Viva developer Eden Games from France. The handling is more arcadey, but it has more unique cars than the PC version, like the 917K, the 924 line, and the 968 line. Its career mode has more historical flair thanks to its presentation, though it dishes car upgrade and customization. Factory Driver is short and its arcade mode has less options, but thankfully all the tracks are made in open worlds and you can free roam in them, more for fun than anything. Now, why are these versions so different? Well, according to Peter Roya in an IGN article, sit down! It was their philosophy to create the right game for their respective system, so EA Canada were tasked to use the PC's full potential at the time, while Eden tried to be creative with the PS1's limitations. Now that makes sense as they're two different systems with different architectures and capabilities. Now, how do you explain Hot Pursuit 2? The 6th generation was when PC and console versions started becoming more alike. Aside from graphical fidelity, they play the same and have most of the features, if not all. So it makes no sense to create different versions for different systems since then. But oh, there have been a few. Spider-Man 2 is a completely different game on the PC compared to the console versions, as it's more linear and more hand-holdy, and nobody liked that. Meanwhile, Battlefield Bikini Bottom, which is a 3D platform on consoles, is a minigame collection on the PC. But it isn't always bad. NASCAR Thunder 2004 takes a similar approach to Porsche Unleashed, where its console versions have a more arcadey feel, whereas its PC version, developed by the team who went on to make R Factor, is more of a simulation. That still makes sense. So how do you explain Hot Pursuit 2? This is an enigma. I reviewed Hot Pursuit 2 back in 2018 as part of a classic era NFS retrospective thing. However, I played the PC version, which, alongside the GameCube and Xbox versions, was developed by EA Seattle, makers of 2 through High Stakes on PC. The PS2 version is a whole different beast. This version was developed by Black Box, and if that name doesn't ring you a bell, there you go. I just find this odd really. Why is the PS2 version so different? Well actually, why did the PC version need to be different? I thought that this is a matter of making the right title for the system. Like, I get that the PS2 is weaker in processing and graphical power, yet it was more complicated to develop on compared to the Xbox and even the GameCube, but I'm pretty sure that you can easily, in theory, port that version to those systems. It's a win-win in my book, and it's been done before and around that time, like Agent Under Fire and Nightfire, bar its PC version, another example of questionable decisions. Those games play the same no matter the home console. The only difference is the frame rate. The GameCube and Xbox versions run smoother, but other than that, they're the same games. But no, they decided to sawma fuck over fans that own those systems instead of doing the best thing, and it's just so weird. I'm not trying to say that the Seattle version is terrible, I actually liked it. I'm just bemused. But whatever, the games were released in October 2002, and its Black Box PS2 version was received better than the Seattle version, which led to the latter team's collapse that same year. So let's see if I think this is any better. Lately, I've been using PCSX2 to record footage of PS2 games. Thanks to my new PC, I can actually play most of them at stable frame rates, even at 2 times the native resolution. So I thought, hey, why not just record games from here? It's more convenient than using my actual PS2 and hoping to the gods the game doesn't change interlaced signals to have a fluid capture. But there have been a few games I played that don't look as good in the emulator as in the real console, so for this and another new feature, I'm sticking with my actual PS2. Like the other version, the game boots up to this sick FMV intro with a Ferrari and a Murcielago racing, cops chasing them, and a cleaner version of Hot Action Cops going down on it playing in the background, arguably the better one. I'm too depressed to dance. If you only play the PS2 version, this might confuse you a lot. Here's PS2 Hot Pursuit 2 with a wildly different menu compared to the Seattle version. While that version's championship and Hot Pursuit menus are just their campaign trees, with custom race being separate in the main menu, the Black Box version as well as changed the former's name to War Racing as the two well-established menus, with Quick Race and Custom Race menu each. So much like the Seattle version, the game has two campaign trees, one with pure racing and another with cops and stuff. This is actually one of the ways of unlocking stuff, and believe me, unlocking them takes more than just buying stuff. Some cars and all the tracks are unlocked behind events, others are only unlocked by reaching the points threshold, and for the rest, you have to unlock them by winning custom races in specific ways, like win a race by leading all the laps in the event's difficulty specific, or win a clean race in a lap specific. Yep, I'm not gonna get the CLK. I lied, I actually did. Let's just do an event. I gotta say, the graphics actually look better than in the Seattle version. Comparing them both is like night and day. Ignoring the track layouts, you can tell how similar the rest of the tracks are. For instance, the tropical tracks at the volcano, and the Mediterranean tracks have the seaside town. But the PS2 version of the tracks have some added flair to them. And then you have the woodland tracks. My god, they're very recognizable. Am I even racing on the same tracks at all? It's mesmerizing. The cars themselves look mostly like the Seattle versions. There are those that are a bit different, like the CLK GTR, but other than that, you can barely tell the difference. They both have the Mission Elise. But speaking of more flair, it also applies to the race starts, finishes, and replays. I swear, EA Seattle dropped the ball on their version of Hot Pursuit 2. The starts are just boring. Once you're done checking the lineup, you're instantly behind the car, wired up at standstill. Whereas in the Black Box version, wiping up your car during the countdown actually makes it move a bit, which is good for a jump start. The finishes of the Seattle version are like the PC version of Porsche Unleashed, while the Black Box version ends like the old NFS games, but with an announcer telling you where you finished it.
You've won the race!
And holy shit, replays with actual camera angles instead of just being stuck on what camera you use during the race in the Seattle version. It's those details that I like. Now sure, despite the graphical upgrade, as I would say, the game however runs at 30 FPS, but even then, it's still worth seeing it. For sound, the car noises in the Black Box version are rather identical to the Seattle version, at least when comparing them with the Corvette. Other than that, the cop shutter and the menu sounds are the same, but with added ones in the car select menu. Oh fuck the car select menu, I fucking love this thing! With a simple yet great showcase where you can move the camera around the car. And you can play as a woman here? And there are police scanner noises when you approach an idling cop car? Fuck me, this is awesome! I'm sorry for praising this game too much, but I missed out on a lot of this since my old Hot Pursuit 2 video. For music, it's identical to the Seattle version from Lexer Rush, Uncle Cracker, Hot Action Cop, and others, as well as their instrumental versions and a few original stuff from My Reagan, Humble Brothers, and Rom the Prisco. They still sound just as great, but it's a shame that this is the last game to have original music for a bit. Oh well. Still not getting out of this chair. Let's set aside the comparisons for a bit and talk about gameplay. The handling is pretty sim-catey, more on the side of arcade physics. The car corner is heavy on the corners, but it's still enough to be casual friendly, at least when you're just racing. Even the faster cars aren't as daunting. In fact, they're really fun to drive them. However, while the cars handle tarmac and dirt roads well, they apparently suck at worn and cobblestone paths. When you're driving on them, the car wobbles up and down, making cornering a chore. I know I shouldn't yet start comparing again, but you know what? I'm giving a point to the Seattle version. Still, really great to drive, though I'm actually just talking about the classic handling style. There's actually two of them. The other one is Extreme, which... I don't know, I don't notice any Oh god! To put it mildly, Extreme is like driving without assist, meaning that you're gonna fish some more. Fun. Yeah, no, not in my arcade game. Also, you can choose between auto transmission, manual, or semi-auto. Are you telling me the middle option is from full manual, clutch pressing included? Calm the fuck down, man. The control layout is about the same as any other PS2 racing game, but there are a few unique features you can use by pressing the shoulder buttons. They are the zone buttons. L2 gives you a 360 camera span of your car, while R2 gives you an overview of the 500 meters that's ahead of you, useful for checking a nearby roadblock. Not sure about the former though. Is it to know what's behind you? L1 by default can already do that, unless you're in a cop chase, which the camera locks to the nearest cop car pursuing you. But other than that, I don't see much use of the 360 spin cam. Oh god, are those the same traffic cars used in Undergrounds 1 and 2? Does that mean... Now I can compare these Meerkats. While they play the same, I think the PS2 version feels faster to me. It's the camera that makes it feel quick, as it pulls away as the car accelerates. Plus, I think the handling feels snappier. The Seattle version now feels wrong after playing the PS2 game. It's still enjoyable, but the other one is just better. Getting points is similar, but still different from the Seattle version. You can still get points for leading laps and escaping roadblocks, except you get more this time, but you also get them by getting places, reaching the top speed, doing clean laps, and jumping even. It's more in line with the later Underground games, which I love. And like that game at least, you don't spend those points for anything. You just have to accumulate to unlock cars for challenge mode, simple as. The AI opponents could be a bitch to race even without catch-up enabled, but I don't find them as terrible as I used to think back then. I think I mellowed out over the years. Sure, there are moments where the first place opponents get way ahead of me, especially in the Hot Pursuit events, but I eventually catch up to them anyway. Sometimes the rubber banding can be a good thing. As for the cops... Hang on a second, I'm not a pale demon. Oh. They suck. The chases start mildly annoying, with the cops being startled and curious about you. Funny thing about it is that unlike the Seattle version, you can actually disable them. It takes some patience and mind games, but if you lure them onto an oncoming car or a wall, their patrol car gets fucked and you're on the clear for a bit. But when the chase reaches 4 stars, all hell breaks loose. And it's always a matter of when. After getting approval from their supervisor, they start setting up roadblocks at first. I thought I'd just hit their car's rears, but I remember that this is not most wanted. So the best way is to get through a small gap, go off-road, or take a shortcut. Because cops tend to place blockades after cutscenes, the idiots. But they can be smart sometimes, placing idling cops and roadblocks in shortcuts. And then the helicopter shows up, but I'll talk about it later. And then they bring on the spike strips, which are harder to avoid. Sure, the same strategy applies, but now you have the other risk of getting your tire slashed. And if that happens, it's an instant bust. And that's not even the worst part. The cops will ram you to the sides, preventing you from taking a corner. They just love to crash at you. A lot. It's made worse when you're trying to avoid the spikes or in a shortcut. I fucking hate them. And it seems they're harder when there's less opponents in a race. So if you do a time trial event, good fucking luck. And holy shit, I fucking hate the helicopter. Not only does it drop explosive barrels and spikes like in the Seattle version, but it can also launch homing fucking missiles at you. What a massive police budget does to those motherfuckers. I can never catch a break with these jerks, but with enough luck and time, which is really long, the cops stop chasing you, leaving it too dangerous to continue.
This guy's gonna kill somebody. All units back off.
At the very least, it makes much sense than in the Seattle version, but your car is giving up after a minute in. Plus, you can be busted twice and still continue the race with a reduced wanted level, but strike free and you're out. This is like the first Hot Pursuit in high stakes, but unlike the Seattle version, where if you get busted once, it's over. But even then, they fuck up your races hard. Like, I tried to do this one knockout event, but the cops are extra annoying. The only way I had to win is to get myself busted and then continue, because the cops will go easier on you for a while, and even then, you also have the opponent to take care of. It's frustrating, it took me so many retries. You know you can just not do the event and race on another, right? What are you, a games journalist? What are you talking about? I'm just letting you know there are alternatives. You like to go too easy on games while trying to tell me to follow your example. Well, I'm done listening to your coward ass. Yeah, that's right, I'm calling you a pussy. How do you feel? It's just a game, Sophie. There's no need to push it hard. When it doesn't have difficulty options for the event trees, I have to. You don't. You're just turning yourself into a douchey hard ass that wants gratitude from Judd to hate the slightest rejection of an easy mode in the Souls game. I tell you to stop going down that path. But from what I witnessed, it's obvious you never learned your lesson. Always pretending just to make me feel better. And besides, you're immortal. In your mind, that's the most coward thing you can think of. If you don't shut up, I will torture you in my sleep like a Magdalene laundry. Fuck, that's a deep cut. And I was actually confining one of them. Even better. You don't scare me. Oh, I will. Still doubt it. And now I'm taking over your review. Wait, what? Gotta lubricate my Canadian accent some more. The car list is almost the same as in the other version. I say almost because there's a few differences. For instance, the CLK GTR in the PS2 version is the race car version rather than the street legal one, though it's just visual as they still have the identical stats. At one point it was gonna be the CLK LM, despite being erroneously still called the GTR, but that got changed, albeit retaining the LM wheels. Plus, it has the 360 mod as the NFS version for the Spider, and there are some police cars omitted in this version, like the Diablo car that still shows up in the opening FAV, fucking hell. Other than that, it's the same. It still has the two same speedsters, just with different badges, the Australian cars, the beautiful Z8, oh how I love it, and the odd-looking McLarens. Even in the PS2 version, they still look off. The headlights shouldn't be the same size. Just like the Seattle version, the cars have their own slightly faster NFS editions, except for the BMWs. This time, however, some of them have special liveries instead of a different color. I gotta say, those cars have amazing liveries. The Corvette one resembles the C5R, and the 911 one looks sick as hell. Shame I have to get like millions of points to unlock them. For the tracks, they're setting 5 locations. Yes, 5 locations in the PS2 version. There's the coastal tracks that have a forest fire in the middle of it, the Mediterranean tracks with beautiful ruins and this marina shortcut, the tropical tracks with the city area full of alternate paths and a volcano to boot, the woodland tracks representing my favorite season to a T, and finally the desert tracks with an airfield I can drive on and a derelict car in the way of a shortcut. Why is it there? Each location consists of 2 circuits and 1 point track combining the closed loops. On one hand, they're fun to drive with great shortcuts and scenery. Plus, it's great to finally race on the desert courses after being stuck with the PC version. On the other hand, I forgot how fucking long these tracks are. There's only one track that goes under 2 minutes in one lap, being the coastal parklands. Everything else is really long, with the worst offenders being the tropical tracks. They're not Nürburgring levels of long, except for the point track, but they're so windy and the trees can make traversing the shortcuts a pain, so it's worse than that. Even the volcano doesn't make up for it. Let's talk about the event trees again. The events consist of simple single races, knockouts, time trials, and championships. There's nothing bad about them, other than the knockouts. I always get disappointed that there are more of the last place in the race gets eliminated or won't be in the next variety and not simple life knockouts. They just feel like stretch the game too much. It doesn't help that the tracks are so long. Thankfully, like I told Sophie, they can be ignored if there are alternatives in the unlocked branch. What I like about the lap time trials is that if you manage to cross the line under par in at least the first lap, the race is completely over. No need to do 2 more laps despite that. Thank fuck, because the Seattle version forces me to do that. Also helps that most of the events just have one goal instead of 3 medals, though it's interesting that the rest only unlock one of the 3 if you finish the race knockout or championship in 3rd place, but still, it isn't possible to go from top to bottom by just doing single races and time trials. Eventually, you'll end up doing a championship event. And while they might be exciting in the Ultimate Racer tree, the one with cup chases, the ones in the championship tree are really boring to be honest. At least they give me some points to add in the tally. Pretty good, eh? I already miss your Irish accent. Flexing after living in Canada for 30 years. Still gonna torture me in your sleep? Nah, I have other plans involving another person. Well, I guess I saved the best for last. That is, if you love lopping as a cop. Like in Hot Pursuit and High Stakes, you get to play as a cop and chase those pesky races out of the tracks before time runs out. What you do is simple. One by one, you hit the races enough so that you can rest them. If one race is getting on your nerves, you can call a blockade or a helicopter to help you out. You also have boosting case by holding R3. While challenge mode gives you more time after arresting someone, the event in the tree doesn't give you such, so you have to do it quickly. I was hoping for the cop game to be as exciting as being chased, but shockingly, this is so boring. the racers actually drive slow even when you're chasing them. So really, it's not hard to catch them all without any assistance from a chopper or a roadblock. It's just that easy. No wonder playing as a cop didn't come back until the remake of Hot Pursuit. Yeah, I know about Carbon's multiplayer stuff, but they don't count. Also, why am I starting backwards while the AI cop sidle forwards is beyond me, but at least the map isn't put at full screen by default. Plus, you get to drive the cop cars in normal races. Can the CL version do that? Well, no, but I also don't want to play as the bad guys anyway. So that was the PS2 version of Hot Pursuit 2. Honestly, it's hard to look back at the Seattle version after this because I just think the black box version is the better game. Sure, they play similar, but the black box one felt like it had more polish. For one, the cop chases are more frustrating, but they're still less painful than in the Seattle version. It looks better, and it certainly plays better. So even if it's harder to get it, at least through legal means, I recommend playing this version. We still have Undercover left to complete the black box era, but next time, don't expect a revengeance joke for this one, or Star Wars music. In the meantime, I need to check on Pinky. Nothing's the same since the restaurant incident.